Career Conversations. My name's Izelle.
I'm Laura.
And I'm Dakota.
And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about interview preparation. So interview is such a large topic that we feel like breaking it down into smaller sections is going to be more digestible. So what we're going to be focusing on specifically today is basically research. Like, how do we do research to help us prepare for an interview? So I'm going to go ahead and get this started. Laura and Dakota will be joining me in a second. And so when it comes to doing company research, for one, you just need to do some research. Sometimes one of the first questions that we ask when we're helping individuals prepare for an interview is like, what do you do to actually prepare? And sometimes we'll get individuals that do their preparation and they're kind of giving us a rundown of what that looks like. And other times we get individuals that aren't really sure what they should be doing. So the first thing that you should always do is to go to the company website. Typically, every company website has an About Us section. So you want to go there, read all about it, take a look at, what it is, what are their values? Like, what are the things that they're valuing? Do they have a mission? So look at that, understand that. I think that's really, really important. Oftentimes, some or a very traditional interview question might be something like, what do you know about this company? Why do you want to work for this company? And without doing that research, it's very challenging to answer that question effectively. And quite honestly, you can tell the difference between somebody that has done their homework and done their research versus somebody that's just answering the question without much information to go off of. So definitely go onto the company website, take a look at their About Us section. Every page typically has one. Do they have a mission? What is it? What are their values? Also take a look at things like, what do they do? What types of products or services do they offer? So really kind of dive into that website, be familiar with it. But in addition to that, take it a step further and take a look at social media. Social media is super helpful to get like in the now information. So that company website can give you really good like foundational information, but that social media can give you really good insight as to like, what are they doing? Like I said, social media kind of happens in the moment and it tends to be more updated than say a website. So go and take a look at their Facebook or their Instagram, their LinkedIn, their YouTube, see what are they posting? What are they sharing about? Are they sharing articles? Or they're sharing maybe things that they're doing, projects that they're working on, a new launch of something, a new program. So be very familiar with that and look at what are people saying about these things. So take a look at that. Super helpful. But also we mentioned YouTube. Take a look at their YouTube channel. Oftentimes companies tend to have lots of videos posted on there and those are often very informative and informational. So go to their YouTube, search the company, and see what they're sharing. Sometimes you'll find CEOs that are talking about their company and about their mission and values and what they believe in or their products and services. So it's one thing to read about it, but it's one thing to hear and see it if they are sharing that information through videos. So definitely utilize those and capitalize on that website and those social media accounts to help you conduct really good research. So you go in there having a good foundational knowledge about who and what they're about and what makes them tick. What else can we share? This is probably like, I don't know, I feel like everything's really important because I'm like, this is so important, but I'm like, no, this other stuff's really important too. But the job description, one that we have to share is whenever you are applying for a job, you need to make a copy of that job posting and the job description because this is going to be like your best friend to help you prepare for an interview. So when you're applying for jobs, print out the job description, store it on your computer in a file somewhere, print it out, throw it in a binder. So that way, when you hopefully get that call back, you can go back and reference that job posting to help you prepare and anticipate maybe potential interview questions. And we do it through what I kind of call it like a job description analysis. I don't know, do you call it something else? No, not really. Okay. So just doing that, right? I know I personally have had people ones that have come in and they were interviewing for a position, and I asked what position they were interviewing for, and they were unsure. And the reason behind that, not a lot of people are like, well, how do you not know what you're interviewing? But it's actually kind of common. I've had a few people say this where they've applied to a company, but that company had multiple positions, and they've applied to the multiple positions. Because sometimes I feel like people do that. They find themselves in a frenzy or the need to like apply to all the things. And so they do that, but then they forget what it is that they apply for. So saving it and looking back to it to do this job description analysis is really important. Does anybody have any advice of how to do a job description analysis? I know that I kind of have some things, but how do you all use the job posting to kind of prepare or do that research?
Yeah, so when I'm helping somebody, I always tell them, look at all the sections of the job posting. So look at what are the skills, what are the qualifications, what are the requirements, what is the actual job description, and then if the company has like an overview of what they do. So look at all of those things and figure out, okay, how I need to break those sections down in a way to kind of figure out what are the questions that are going to be asked. So you look at the job description, and I literally will go like sentence by sentence and say, okay, this is in the job description, this is what you'll be doing. You may not necessarily need to know how to do those things, but this is in the job what you'll be doing. If they ask you of any of those sentences within the actual job description and you have done that, you need to be able to talk about that in the interview in case you're being asked. So how you're going to do that is you're going to really just write notes, and you're going to say if one of the job description is you have to have you're going to be doing customer service in a really fast-paced environment. That's like one of the things you'll be doing in your job. If you've done that, you need to be able to say that you've done that and then provide an example of when you did that. So what that would look like is you would say, okay, I have, 3 years experience of working in a fast-paced environment, and, in customer service. I did that working in retail, where I served, 50 customers within an hour shift, and then talk a little bit about those duties. And that might seem a little bit like, tedious of having to go through every single like sentence within that job description, but it's really going to help you understand what you've done. Because sometimes when we think about our jobs, we think about just the tasks that we've done. Like I greeted customers, I did this, but there's so much depth in what we do in our jobs when we're doing those tasks that you really have to think of the overall of what we've done in that particular, I guess, job task. So, I always say, look at your, job as kind of like you're hovering over what you've done, but you've done so much than just, greet customers, maybe cashiering or whatever it is, but like, try to be more broad about what you've done because you've actually done a lot. And a lot of times when I'm talking to job seekers, they're like, well, that's all I've done. And I'm like, no, you've done so much more. You really need to learn and understand that, you're developing all these skills by what you've done. So look at that and describe, what the task was, what was involved. That way you just make notes of each sentence. And that way, if they ever ask you about any of those job descriptions, then you can talk about it. And that really helps you to sell yourself and to know yourself. And I think that's really important that, we just don't go to an interview just kind of winging it without looking at the job description, because then it kind of shows that it's really hard for you to talk about yourself.
Yeah.
So that's my suggestion.
Yeah. I think it's also, as being a student, I think it's also okay if you haven't done something per se in your professional workforce field to also maybe pull from your classes, because you're trying to get a job in the field that you're taking classes in.
Right.
So maybe you haven't done a lot of, data analysis, but maybe you've taken a statistics or a psychological statistics course and you've worked with Excel and SPSS. I think you could like bring that into your interviewing skills too. So when you're looking through that job analysis, not only have I done this in my professional life, but have I done this in my educational field as well? is something you could ask yourself, and just see where you can include some of your skill sets within those two realms that you spend most of your time in. I mean, if you're not at school, you're at home or work. So you kind of have a lot of different areas that you could pull from with your own experiences.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's exactly it. So it's kind of looking at that job description, taking it line by line, and then once you're taking it line by line, I always have people ask themselves, have I ever done this before? Yes or no. Yes, great. Or no, if I haven't, have I done something similar? Yes or no. And then yes, great. What's an example? Like, where have I done this? And what's an example of a time that I'm doing this? And kind of start doing those cliff notes for yourself. And again, it's a lot, but doing this is really critical, because you're right, Laura, like when you're in your job, you kind of get lost in all the things that you do. And in an interview, when you're being asked behavioral type questions, like give me an example of a time, it's really hard to think of a concrete example of a time. I hear this all the time. Oh my gosh, I work with difficult customers all the time, but I can't think of one concrete example because there's just so many. But doing this work ahead of time and really thinking about like what are the best examples of me doing this successfully will hopefully allow you to go in with those things top of mind and feel more confident and prepared going and answering those questions thoroughly and just, knocking it out of the park. So again, that job description analysis, one, need to have a job description. Two, look at it, go through it line by line and ask yourself, have I done this before? Have I done something similar? Was it at work? Was it at school? What's an example of a time that I've done this successfully? And then start writing those cliff notes. So doing that in combination, hopefully with doing the research, will hopefully allow you to do the homework that will boost your confidence, because we all have a little bit of nerves going in and we don't know exactly what they're going to ask, but at least if we've anticipated maybe some questions, or maybe we've at least thought about how our experiences relate to it, we're going in there confident knowing that we've done all the research and we've done all the preparation that we can. And having those cliff notes and taking them in is something that we can definitely do, and something that we'll talk about in a later episode. So we'll end there for now. If you want to join us in our next video, we're going to be talking about the different types of interview questions. We talked about coming up with examples. So if you check out our next video that talks about the different types of interview questions, we'll tell you, or we'll give you some insight and some feedback, hopefully, that will help you in crafting a really good response following some specific methods that we have. So thanks for joining. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.